Okay, so me and my partner Trent are debating whether or not felons should have the right to vote. And this is my opening. At least 2 million felons are in prison right now. When they get out of prison, it's harder for them to get a job, and they automatically lose the right to vote. This is wrong. Felons should get the right to vote because it's a part of their right. Felons not being able to vote would also be violating the 8th Amendment. So why should this right be revoked from them?
I am arguing for the reason for felons to not have the right to vote. Children, non-citizens, and the mentally ill are not allowed to vote because their judgment for this country is skewed or not yet developed. What makes felons any different? They commit crimes breaking the law, therefore showing that they have skewed views on the government. These felons should not vote because they do not have the right to express their opinion after they went against what the country has set forth for them. Thank you.
Alright, so my first point is equality. I believe felons should have the right to vote because they have the right for many other things like freedom of religion, and that doesn't get taken away from them when they're in jail. So, why should the right to vote be revoked from them? Some people feel a sense of pride when voting, and to have that right taken away would be terrible. States like Maine and Vermont do not take the right to vote for felons away. It might be just a start, but if other states start allowing felons to vote, that's almost 7,000 votes that affect the election. Thank you.
My first point is that felons broke the law. Felons have broken the law, resulting in a skewed view on what is right and wrong. If someone murders someone and then is given the right to vote on whether or not to reduce sentences for felons, they're obviously going to vote to reduce that sentence. Also, this goes with any other crimes that apply to any other felons that will allow them to vote to benefit themselves for past and possibly future sentences. 48 of the states agree and believe that felons should only gain their voting rights after they are released from jail at a minimum, while only 2 believe that they should always have their voting rights. Thank you.
Alright, so my second point is how would the felons get a sense of what's going on in the election while they're in jail? So I feel like felons should be able to see what's going on in the political part of the world, like on TV or something. What's the point of having felons vote if they don't know what's going on during the elections and debates? By having felons know what is going on during that time, they can see which candidate supports or does not support them. They can also see the candidate's policies and determine if their policies would be a good fit for their possible families and themselves when they get out of jail. Thank you.
My second point is that children, non-citizens, and the mentally ill cannot vote. The reason they cannot vote is because their view is not fully developed or they are not in a position where the vote will affect them. Children's brains are still developing and changing along with their opinions, but they are the future, yet they still are not allowed to vote. Non-citizens cannot vote simply because they are not a part of the United States. The mentally ill cannot vote because whatever condition they had could lead to a skewed view on the election or whatever they're voting on. So what is the difference with felons? If they broke a law, wouldn't that hinder them morally wrong in their choices? Yes, felons are usually developed adults, but about 55% of all felons have mental health problems, almost making them unable to vote anyways. Thank you.
Alright, so my third and final point. They should have a second chance at life. Alright, so the saying, if you do the crime, you pay the time, already relates to felons who are out or still currently in jail. Some felons are already doing, or already did, the time for the crime they committed. When felons get out of jail, they need to get adjusted to society again. If they already did the time, what's the crime in having them vote now? I feel like voting rights really play a major role in this process. Thank you.
I believe that felons need to prove themselves to compromise with the other side. Felons could effectively earn their right to vote. I believe that after they complete their sentence, which includes prison, parole, and/or probation, then felons should gain their their right to vote back. 20 states actively have that law in place. But what I'm proposing is that the trick is they must take a test to prove that they have changed since they committed whatever crime. This test will allow them to show that they don't have skewed views and hopefully will not commit any crimes in the future. If the felon passes, then they can gain their right to vote back, but until then, they are not allowed to vote. Thank you.
This is so weird. It's like, that must be like stretch class.
Okay, so the graph you just saw.
Okay, so basically here I was just talking a bunch of nothing. So, what I'm trying to say, is my graph. When do felons get their voting rights back? I believe that they should get it back when they get out of jail as well as in jail. So, as you can see, Maine and Vermont both have no restrictions on when felons get their voting rights back. However, like 8 states in the rest of the U.S., agree that felons should never get their voting rights back because they committed a crime, so, they shouldn't get that leisure. So what I'm trying to say is that if only 8 states allow felons never to vote, that doesn't make any sense because the rest of the 42 states at least has some accommodations to that. Like some states would say post-prison or post-prison and parole. Like they never said that felons never had the right to vote. So I just don't get why there's only 8 states that don't allow felons to vote when the majority of the states at least allows felons to vote with accommodations. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point of having only 8 states not voting? That doesn't make any sense to me.
So the 3 pie charts that you just saw, for the federal prisons, 44.8% of felons have mental health problems. But once you get into the lower prisons, this number skyrockets up to 56 and then 64%. Therefore, the average of all prisons of felons with mental health problems is around 55%, which means more than half should be not allowed to vote.